G'day legends, Blake here with another video, and I know it has been a while between drinks and my upload schedule's a bit all over the place at the moment, but I promise I have been doing stuff. I've been trying to teach my Fahaka puffer here to eat a prawn. With mixed success. He has been interested, but today is not the day, I guess. But yeah, if you didn't know, I got myself a Fahaka puffer about 3 months ago, and I've been enjoying watching this beast grow. I've also been busy with my training. I ran another half marathon and I've got a full coming up in about 6 weeks, and then another one about 8 weeks after that. Of course, I've been keeping up with all of the fish related maintenance as well, water changes, feeding and breeding where I can. But the other thing that's kept me quite busy at the moment is the club that I'm on the committee of, the Aquarium Society of Victoria, and that's the topic of today's video. So this month I organised Mats from Blackwater Aquariums to come and speak about Botanicals, live fish foods and Apistogrammas. So I recorded that meeting mainly for the club, but also I figured that I might share it with you all so that you can get an idea of what sort of happens at club meetings if you are in the Melbourne region. But if not, it's just a good tool. I thought I really enjoyed the chat, and I think there's a fair bit to learn. So of course, recording in a big sort of hall, there's a lot of echo and stuff like that, but I tried to do it the best I can. Sometimes the angles aren't as desirable as I wish they were, but you know, if it is something that you want me to record and potentially put out in the future, of course with the club's permission, you know, I'll see what I can do. But I've got some pretty exciting ones that I'm planning over the next few months, so we'll see. But other than that, I hope you enjoy this meeting from Mats from Blackwater Aquariums about all those things. And yeah, sit back, relax, and kind of do your maintenance or whatever while you listen as well. I reckon it could be a good sort of podcasty type one as well. So hope you enjoy.
All right, so you can go to the next page, Blake. All right, so what we'll talk about today is the following things. We'll talk about what Apistogramma are. Some of you might not know what they are. How we keep them, how we breed them, what to look for in genetics, what to look for in diseases and disease management. How to raise the fry and how to care for it, what to feed them. Then we do a little Q&A after that. And then the final thing is we're gonna build a Blackwater inspired tank for Apistos. So I've brought 9 boxes of Botanicals that will be the prizes for the raffle. And then this will be the main prize, a dry-scaped Blackwater tank. So you gotta fill it up yourself, and I'll give you some more instructions because it's not going to be as easy as just filling it up. All right, next one. Okay, what are Apistogramma? Apistogramma are a dwarf cichlid, only found in South America. They're in a big range, so they mostly in the Amazon River, all the way from Peru down to Argentina, all the way up to Colombia. You can go to the next one. So you can see this map. So if you look at all the symbols on there, that is basically where they are found. So every symbol is a different species. What you can see is most of it are in like Ecuador, Colombia, a few in Bolivia and in Peru. But this whole massive area of South America has not been explored because of the Amazon, and it's not very accessible. So there's like still plenty more species that has not been discovered. But yeah, so they go all the way from down Montevideo, which is Uruguay, Argentina, all the way up. So yeah, 243 species at the moment. As I already said, they are more likely about another 500 of them because they keep popping up. Every mission of fish collectors that go to the Amazon, they come across a little puddle and they find a new species. So they've recently introduced a new numbering system, the same as they do with the L numbers and the Corridora. So it's now, instead of the species, they have an A number. So you've got, I think, A243 at the moment. The sizes of them, the smallest that is found full-size adult is 5 centimeters and the biggest around 12 centimeters. So there's a big range in sizes, colors, shapes. it's a pretty cool species to keep, and that's why I'm so passionate about keeping them. Okay, how to keep them. So it's a little bit dependent on the species, because as you already saw, they cover basically the whole of South America. Well, South America has the Andes Mountains, so they live in the mountains. You've got the Amazon River, which is, at some stages it's a fast-flowing river, some stages it's a slow flowing river. Some parts is very black water, some parts is white water. So when you look at how to keep them, you want to look first at what species are you going to keep. You can go to the next one. Like the minimum, looking at like a tank like this is about 70 liters, but you could go a bit smaller to about 50 liters. They do prefer to have a big footprint. So rather than getting a very tall tank, you're better off getting a tank that has a bigger footprint, because they are more a bottom dwelling species. So they would definitely like that more than having a tall tank. They don't go to the top of the water column. They prefer clean acidic water. As I said, they come from different ranges. So some parts of the Amazon is more neutral, but generally speaking, it's around 6.5, as high as it can get. There has been species found in 4.5, 4.0. These are like stagnant puddles of rainwater that they haven't been able to escape from, but they thrive and build small colonies in here. Again, if we have them here in Australia, most of them are aquarium bred or imported. They are generally able to handle the 7.5. I wouldn't really recommend to go over 7.5, because that's just not doing the fish any justice, because they're not really used to that. Pairs, trios, or harem. So depending again on the size of your tank. If you have a tank like this and you scape it properly, I would say you can keep a trio. If you have a big 4x2x2, you can do a harem, where you just take one male and a few females. So I don't recommend to keep more males in the same tank, because that will end in trouble, because the males will always attack them when there's females. You can keep multiple males in a tank though. I've done it in the past a few times, but never introduced females. As soon as you introduce females, like in real life, you will have issues. Ditterfish. Ditterfish are great, as long as they're not too bulky, too aggressive. Apistos are a little bit sensitive, so if you put them with a bigger South American and the bigger South American attacks them, your apistos are not going to thrive. So you're looking at like small nanofish, different species of neon tetras or other tetras. Rasboras are really good. I've bred CPDs together with them in a tank. Corridors are great. What I normally look at is you keep them in 3 columns. So you got your bottom one where the pistos will live, then you got your middle, and then you got your top. So if you look for one in each column of a different species, you're technically all right. This does really depend also on whether you want to breed them. If you want to breed them, I recommend to only have top swimming fish, because if you will put corridoras in the bottom layer with them, they will go for the fry, they will go for the eggs. Corridoras are active at night, so when the female is in the cave with the fry, corridoras can get in and eat them. So if you want to breed them, keep them as a pair or trio themselves with some top swimmer, or not any ditterfish at all. But you can put them in communities, that's not an issue. Plants, caves, and sand. So I personally like aquascaping. I like green in my tank. I like to have a tank that is an eye catcher, something that has lots of plants. The Amazon by itself, and most of the habitats that they come from, doesn't really have much plant life, because the pH is just too low, and plants don't really thrive in that. In saying that though, I feel Apistos are also a little bit sensitive sometimes when it comes to nitrates. So having plants in there will make sure that they have a better life. Plants that I normally recommend for Apistos is Val. Val is really nice because it grows like a little bush and it flows over the top of the water column. Anubias does really well in the low pH that they can handle. Java ferns does really well. I wouldn't put any stem plants because stem plants, because they dig in the sand, they will just rip up the whole scape. So that's not really a good thing for them. If you look at caves, caves could mean anything. You could have plant pots that you turn upside down, drill a little hole in it, that could be a cave. Me personally, I like to use the Botanicals that I've brought today as well, because it just gives it a more natural look. The Botanicals will also break down, create black water, put lots of nutrients in for the babies as well, build biofilm, which will all be loved by these Apistos. Sand, I like a sand bottom instead of gravel, as they do sift through the sand for food and clean their gills. You need to provide them with sand. I ideally use a sand that is fine and not sharp. There's some sands on the market that is a bit too sharp that will destroy their gill. So try and find a sand that's like fine and not too spiky. The sand that I personally like is iron sand. It's a very fine sand that floats to the bottom really easy. Doesn't create a mess. That's this sand that I'll show you later. It's also inert, which is like great to do with Apistos. If you have a sand that isn't inert, you will raise the pH and it will lower your chances of breeding them successfully. Quartz sand is another good one. Quartz sand can be found in white, and these ones is in black. So, how to breed them? Before you want to start breeding them, you have to do your research. At the moment, I think there's maybe about 40 species of Apistos available in Australia. At the moment, unfortunately, I don't see many of them in the shops anymore. They seem to have fallen off a little bit. But you want to do your research. So before you set up your tank, you don't want to set up a tank that has a pH of 7.5 and get a wild pair of Apistos, because they're just not going to breed. They need the soft acidic water. But if you go, for example, with Cacatoides that you see over here, they can easily survive in 7.5 and they breed fine. So before you do any purchases of Apistos, I would always do my research to see where they came from, what breeder they came from, what the breeder kept them in. Then you've got the pairing and the sexing. Obviously, you want to start with a female and a male, because if you have two males, it doesn't work. If you got two females, it doesn't work. Unfortunately, this can be an issue sometimes. I make mistakes as well, as anyone does. So if you ever buy fish of me and you get two males or you get two females, please reach out, because that's not going to set you up for success. They don't really need to be paired off. They're not like some other fish where you need to put the whole group in a tank, see which female likes the male, bonds together, and then take that pair and put it in a separate tank. 9 out of the 10 times, Apistos will breed if you put a female and a male. They're not picky at all. They will pair up and breed as long as you provide them the right environment. Water parameters, same thing. Comes down to research. So a blackwater fish would thrive in a blackwater environment. Apistogramma borelli, for example, which is a fish that does better in a clear water environment. Nitrates is very important to keep an eye on. Same as ammonia and nitrites. They are pretty hardy, but if you have too much nitrates in the water, they won't last very long. So frequent water changes, not overstocking your tank, and having lots of floating plants to help with that nitrate absorption. So the core substrate and caves, we will go into this a bit more when I do the actual scape, so I can show you exactly what I mean by scaping it correctly. If you have a trio in here, you have to make sure you have at least 2 caves at each other side of the tank. If you have 1 cave, they will fight for that 1 cave. Didders or no didders is a little bit up to your own discretion, I say. I personally don't really use too many didders because I've just found my fish do a lot better when I keep pairs by themselves. But I know a lot of other breeders do. Good didders would be CPD, neon tetras, black neon tetras. So these, you're just looking at fish that are not too aggressive and don't eat a fry. Genetics and inbreeding. This is a bit of a sensitive topic, I think, and I think a lot of people in this room also will have a different opinion on this. Me personally, inbreeding is not a big deal. I've had this line of Cacatoides for going into the 7th year. I have only needed to introduce new blood because I lost my whole tank and had no fry once. There's no deformities, there's no health issues, there's no any issues with this. I know a lot of breeders say you have to every generation put in some new blood because otherwise your genetics are going to get bad and you get deformed fish. I've seen over the years that I've been keeping and breeding Apistos, that's not the case. And I've got a lot of other aquarium shops that I speak to in Sydney that have been saying the same thing. For example, with African cichlids, there's not been any new blood coming into the country for years, and he's still able to breed nice quality fish. Same for like a line of guppies that he's had for many, many years, never introduced new blood, still good quality fish. This, however, does mean genetics, you want to keep and select the best looking fish. Like everyone else, yeah, you will have fish that just don't look as nice as the other. Or you will have sometimes fish that have like maybe an issue with their swim bladder. If you're then going to start using those fish to breed with, you will run into issues because that's just a genetic issue. That doesn't necessarily mean that it happened because of the inbreeding. It can be a birth defect as well. Disease is a big thing when it comes to Apistos. Not sure if many of you guys will remember 2015, a lot of rules in relation to importing fish has changed because of the Iridio virus. This is a virus that is not treatable. The rules basically changed around the importing. So when Apistos come into Australia, or any fish that's susceptible to the Iridio virus, there needs to be batch testing. So what does that mean is they take one fish from each batch that gets imported, they send it to a lab. If that fish comes back clear, the shipment is free to go to the wholesalers and then dispersed around Australia. This is a little bit tricky though, because even though these tests are still there, not all fish will have diseases. So you get a batch of 100 Apistos, the one that they tested was not with the disease, some others in the batch did. Coming into Australia, the rest of the batch get infected, and it's hard to spot, hard to treat. You're going to then introduce that fish to your breeding colony or to your breeding tanks. You don't sanitize your nets properly. You run the risk of getting this virus or this disease across your whole fish room. So good husbandry, good knowledge of disease management, good knowledge of how to spot when a disease is getting out of hand is very important with this. because you can lose a lot of these fish. So I made a little category of what apistos are easy to breed, what are intermediate, and what are hard to breed. It doesn't always mean when a fish is hard to breed, it's because of the water parameters. It has also to do with aggression, fry survival, and other factors. If we look at the easy mode here, these are 4 of the fish that I breed all myself as well. I found these ones very easy because they can kept in a range of water, like pH can go all the way down to 4.5 and all the way up to 7.5. All these fish that you will see in this list will breed. Cacatoides has lots of fry and a high survival rate of fry, so it's a very good beginner species. Trifasciata, pretty much the same thing. They spawn a lot, they have a lot of fry, and the fry survives really, really well. Borelli, I was about to put that in intermediate because the issue with them is they breed easy. The fry is very easy to survive, but they grow really, really slow. So when you want to start breeding the Borelli for profit, it's not really going to be the best thing because they take about 6 to 8 months before they are a 3-4 centimeter fish. Unless you've got a massive tank that has lots of water changes. But for me, the Borelli are great, easy to keep, but very hard to raise the fry because they grow so slow. Alto Tapiche is the one in the left bottom corner. Initially, I thought this was going to be a very hard fish because they were wild caught when I got them. But when I got them, they bred like 2 days after I got them, and they have not stopped breeding since. Very nice fish, very nice species. Hopefully not rare in Australia anymore because I've sent them to lots of people. Everybody has success with them, so easy to breed. Agassiz, I want to say the whole Agassiz family is probably in between easy mode and intermediate because of aggression. Except for the Elankers, I found them not to be too aggressive, but the rest of them are a bit more aggressive. Firegolds might also be in the same as the Elankers, not that aggressive, but the rest of the Agassizes are quite aggro. So over here we've got the Megaptera, the Hongsloi, the Banshee, and the Agassiz Firegold. So my issue with Agassiz Firegold, why it's here in intermediate, is they are prone to disease. They are a man-made fish, so that's not their original form. Originally they're a silver red fish, but we have line bred these and created them into the color that they are. That comes with health issues. Unfortunately, these ones are very prone to like cancerous ulcers. And it's just really a gamble with these ones where you get it or you don't get it. Unfortunately, I would say about 50% of them, once they mature, get it, and you can't spot it when they're young. So they will get it about a year into their life, and it's unfortunately, when they get it, they will die. Megaptera in the left top corner. They are a bit more aggressive, but lots of fry, breed a lot, very easy to raise. Hongsloi is there as well because of aggression. I just have not found any male-female pair with these that I had to separate. You can keep them together, but if you keep them together and they're aggressive together, they will eat the fry. So what I do once I spot aggression and I see that the aggression is lasting for more than 1 day, I take the male out. You can also choose to take the fry out, but me personally, I like to see the fish with the fry. It just it's just the best thing to see the Apistos caring for their fry, because they're very, very good parents. Banshee I've put here in intermediate because they breed easy, they're easy to look after, but 99% of them are female when you breed them. And till this day I still haven't cracked why that is. I've tried different pH, I've tried different temperatures. Those two are basically the main factors of the distinction of whether a fry will be a male or a female. I've not really found the key, and many others that I have met have had the same issue. They either have only males or only females. And then expert. So these ones were for me, those four, for me were the hardest to breed. Elizabethia, the one that you see in the left bottom corner, is a very, very popular fish. But to breed these, you need a pH of about 4.5. Now, I'm not so sure if many of you have tried to get a tank settle and stable at 4.5, but it's really, really hard. You need RO water, you need lots of botanicals, lots of tannins. At that pH as well, you run the risk of like imbalancing your ecosystem, because the KH and the GH is basically non-existent. So if you by accident put water back in the tank that has KH in it, you will fluctuate your pH and it will kill the fish because they can't handle that. Atahualpa, the one in the left top corner, and the Ortegai in the right bottom corner, those two by far the most aggressive I've ever kept. Even up to the stage that they wouldn't last 5 minutes with each other in a tank, so breeding them is almost impossible. I've had to separate for the Ortegai the male like 5 times before he got bonded with the female. Then I finally got one clutch of fry out of them. Then the tables got reversed. The female got like super aggressive to him, and he thought like, it's so good, I'll jump out of the tank, and that was the end of him. And the same thing happens over and over. So I get a new pair, same thing happens. Only thing what I would recommend with these ones maybe is get a bigger tank. So if you have this is a relatively small tank. If you have a small tank like this, they obviously find each other much easier, and they will obviously make their lives horrible. Schwarzscale, the one in the right top corner, is hard for me to breed because very small amount of fry. They produce about 10 eggs every single time, whereas Cacatoides does about 80 to 120 eggs. If you have 10 eggs and only like 5 of them hatch and 5 make it to adulthood, and then 5 of them turn out to be male, you have to breed them again. Wait, turn out male again. You just have this cycle of like failure. So even though they look amazing, very, very hard to keep going, because every single time I get to the stage where I've got females, the original pair dies out and I have to start all over again. Then Barlowi is not pictured here, but Barlowi is a mouth-brooding Apisto. The reason why that one is expert is because they are mouth-brooding, they're prone to swallowing the fry. I made the mistake initially is feeding them while they were holding the fry. So some African cichlid breeders might have the same issue where they strip the eggs from the mouth. I can't do that with Apistos because they're a lot smaller. And every single time I try doing that, the moment I have her in the net, she swallows. So it's just a lot harder than African cichlids, where it's a little bit easier with. Fry care and raising. So another can be hard thing to do is raising the fry. So there's pretty much 3 different ways of doing it. You've got the full parental, where you get the fry, where you get the parents, they breed in the tank, and from the stage that they are born till the stage that they're almost sellable, you leave them in the tank with the parents. For me, that's the preferred way to do it, because first of all, they grow a lot quicker. I don't know exactly why it is, but for some reason, when they are in the tank with the parents, their growth rate is much quicker. So I prefer to like take them out when they're about 3-4 centimeters, and I can see that the female is wanting to breed again. Also, this will give the female a break. So most apistos, when they have fry in the tank, they won't breed again. So they will raise the fry until you remove them basically, and then they start breeding again. This will also increase the lifespan of the parents, obviously, because breeding takes a lot of energy out of them. Partially parental is basically where you, as you can see in this fry basket, you get the female to breed, hatch the eggs, then they will initially go from hatching the eggs, they will go to a regular stage where they basically don't swim for about 3-4 days. After those 3-4 days, what you can do is take them out, put them in a breeder net. This is parental raising, because like the initial stage is that they have been hatched, which is, if you've ever bred rams before, if you want to let the ram raise the fry by itself, it's very hard, because most of the time ram fry is getting artificially raised, which means the eggs get taken. When this happens, and there's lots of theories about this, they don't get that instinct of knowing who the mother is, knowing how to look after their fry from a young age. So when these fish become adults, once they breed, they don't know how to do full parental, because they've never had that experience with their mother themselves. This is why now for rams, for example, it's very hard to breed them and have them grown up in the tank themselves. If you can get them past 7 days free swimming, you're a very good ram breeder, I think. So this is the 3 types of raising, and again, full parental is my preferred way to do it. I do artificial. I'll elaborate on that a bit more, which is you take the eggs from the cave. You can put it in a breeder box like this, and they will hatch about 3-4 days after. If you put it in a box like this, you run the risk that the eggs become fungused, because your tank is not a clinically clean environment. So bacteria will come in, and it's not the mom that cleans the eggs daily to actually make sure that there's no fungus there. What you can do though is put it in a container with some methylene blue, hatch them in the methylene blue water, then once they've hatched, move them to a breeder box like this. I basically only do this way if it's a new pair of fish, so a pair that I don't have any fry of. And I need to make sure that that fish gets established in Australia, because there's just so many fish that I have in the fish room that if the pair dies, there won't be any backup. So that pair dies out in the hobby in Australia, which is basically also why I'm very interested in doing this talk, because I can hope that I can get more people interested in Apisto, and we can build a little database where we can help each other out. Because now sometimes I lose a fish, I post on Instagram, Facebook, hey, has anyone anything? Can't find it. So that pair dies out, and we don't have them in Australia anymore. Feeding. Now obviously feeding is also a little bit of a personal thing, because you do what you are used to, you do what in your set ways, what you normally do. For me, this is sort of what I do and have done in the past. I don't do black worms too much anymore, because they're very hard to get sometimes, they die out. And they're quite high in protein, so I've found that Apistos don't tolerate that too well. So my 3 things that I prefer is the top 4 basically. So you've got your San Francisco brine shrimp, you got your Tibet brine shrimp, you got grindleworms, and you got the DRPs. The DRPs will be included in those boxes as well. It's a pellet food that I find works really well for Apistos because they are a little bit finicky when it comes to pellets. They don't like high density pellets that are very hard to, and you can't crush them. They will try to eat it and then spit it out. They need a softer pellet that like basically crushes up between your fingers. San Francisco brine shrimp and Tibet brine shrimp is what I feed daily. I have got 2 big Ziz hatcheries in my fish room. One day I feed them San Francisco, the other day I feed them Tibet. The reason why I do this is San Francisco is about half the size of the Tibet brine shrimp. So if you have your Apistos in a very early stage, they can still eat the Tibet, but they prefer the smaller one because it's a smaller living organism. It's easier for them to eat and digest. Grindleworms, I only feed to my adults. I don't feed this to any fry because it's way too high in protein for them. And I also feed this only maximum every 2nd day. Don't start feeding grindleworms every day because it has too much protein in it and it will not be good for Apistos. They like a sort of a more lean diet, so I normally feed them 6 days of the week. I don't feed them on Sundays when I do water changes. It's good for the digestive system to have a break. Now, if you're not able to do San Francisco brine shrimp, Tibet brine shrimp, or grindleworms because you don't want to worry too much about live cultures, you don't want to worry about having hatcheries set up every single day, you can use alternatives. You can use the DRP, you can use frozen foods. Frozen foods, I would go for the more smaller ones. So you've got a variety of frozen foods that are slightly too big. So I try to do the frozen brine shrimp, or you've got the little rotifiers, I think they are. Those work well. Microworms is a good one, another live culture. I don't use too much. It's good for like maybe the first 2 days of your Apistos. It's a very small worm that has a lot of nutrients in there, and I don't want to feed it more often than like the first 2 days because I prefer the San Francisco and the Tibet brine shrimp. Daphnia is a good one. I have to say though, with Daphnia, make sure you grow it inside. Because it's a freshwater live food, you run the risk of introducing disease. Daphnia, unfortunately, is one of the main carriers of some worm parasites. So if you get Daphnia from a pond outside and it was contaminated, you run the risk of introducing something to your Apistos. As long as it's grown inside in the first few cycles of the Daphnia you don't feed, they should regenerate every week. You've got a new batch. So if you decide to do Daphnia, grow it inside, keep it going for 3 weeks and then feed it to the Apistos. Blackworms we already talked about, don't do it too much anymore. It's a great food, however, though, for getting the parents to spawn. It's high in protein and they're quite big, so if you feed this to your parents, you will likely get a spawn out of them. All right, I hope I made you a bit more aware about what Apistos are, what you can do with them, and I hope that it was interesting to you guys. Then I've got a Q&A here, so if anyone wants any questions.
What's your favorite botanical?
For me personally, Indian almond leaves or elder cones when you want to create black water, because they're long lasting and they create lots of good stuff in your tank. If you're looking at caves though, we'll elaborate on this a little bit once I do the tank build, because I brought a whole variety of them. I like bale tree pots because they are just basically a natural cave. Coconut half shells, they're great for caves. That's probably the cave that I use the most. But yeah, if I would say a favorite, regardless of what you want to put in your tank, I'd say alder cones and almond leaves are the best selling on the website as well, and just the best benefits. Yeah. So my preferred way is to feed them first brine shrimp. So what that does is they will eat the brine shrimp, they get full, so they don't move. Okay. So they basically go into a food coma, they barely move. But also what it does is it illuminates their belly almost to pink, to orange. So they eat so much of it that their belly is full and it's pretty much pink. So if you then go and look for them, they're much easier to spot because it's basically a bright orange spot in your tank. And what I do then is like a turkey baster is really good, or siphon. But siphon is, because it's a botanical tank, you've got lots of debris, it gets clogged much quicker. So if you do like a turkey baster, that's the easy way to do it. Might also help to do it at night, because she will take the fry to a cave or to a specific spot in your tank. Also, she's not aggressive at night because she's asleep. So when you take them away, she's not going to be pissed off at you.
The drain tanks that you use for plant growth and control your algae.
So algae there's a mix of things. Algae grows great on phosphate, it grows great on too much light, it grows great on a lot of nutrients. Most of the tanks that I have, because it's a low pH tank, it doesn't create too much nutrients, so I don't really have that issue. Black water also naturally sort of blocks the light out, so you won't have as much light penetration as you would in like a normal clear water tank, so that's already helping you a little bit. Now if you have a black water tank, you don't want to do too many water changes because you're going to effectively take away the black water. That, however, is going to increase your nutrients in the water. And if you use a inert sand, for example, like iron sand, the only downside from this stuff is that it has quite a bit of phosphate in it. So it will increase the nutrients for algae to grow. In saying that though, the issue that I get most is like the cyanobacteria, kind of slime algae. Everything else seems to be quite stable in my tanks. A tannin liquid that you can get, like there's plenty of shops that sell different tannin liquids. So you can do frequent more water changes, but use the tannin liquid to substitute the water that you're taking out. Botanicals will only leach a certain amount of botanical tannins until they like completely deplete it. So you can also just take those botanicals out, but me personally, I don't do that. I use the tannin liquid that I make myself, because that's just the breaking down of the botanicals is one of the nicer things of creating a black water environment, and just replacing it every single time beats the purpose for me.
Do you just make it by boiling botanicals until it sort of concentrates?
Yeah, so what I do is I get alder cones, I get almond leaves, I boil that down to like a concentrate, and I buy fulvic acid. Fulvic acid, you can buy it on eBay, it's a natural product. It's actually most health stores sell it these days because it's apparently a supplement. Fulvic acid is basically the acid that is in tannin, but highly concentrated. So it will already stain your tank a little bit, but it's so concentrated that I mix it with my own stuff to make it last a little bit longer.
It sounds like when you're breeding these, maybe even more so than other cichlids, there would be real issues with overproducing males.
Yes. So this is a hard one. So sometimes I get more males, sometimes I get more females. Generally speaking, I get a good mix. My fish room runs on a heater of the room. So every tank is getting the same temperature. Water changes that I do is RO water with my tannin liquid. So basically every tank should be more or less the same, but still I get different results. It depends per species, it depends per... Yeah, it's very hard for me to figure it out how to get better results with this. With the Banshee, for example, it took me 3 years before I figured out what to do, and it wasn't even actively doing it. It was just being lucky, I think. Because I just got a pair, and this time I got 60% females, 40% males, where before it was like 99% female. It can be the pair together, but there's no real knowledge for me behind it, I think, because it doesn't make sense that one species gives me only male, the other one gives me only females when it's pH or temperature based. If you do a bit of reading on this online though, most people tend to say that higher temperatures will create more males, lower temperatures will create more females. Which is, I reckon it probably comes back to like the rain season in the Amazon. When it's like a colder temperature, when the rain comes, they produce more females so they can get more offspring when they breed. There's no solid, hard knowledge behind it or evidence, but I think the higher temperatures, more males, lower temperatures, more females in general.
What temperature do you run your room at? And are all the species running at the same temperature?
Yeah. So I run my room at 25. I found that to get a 50-50 mix, the best results.
For breeding?
Yeah. Also for longevity, running your tank a little bit warmer, so say about 30 degrees, they will live, but their metabolism speeds up and they will just die much quicker. So you might have a fish that could potentially live 4 or 5 years. That's the oldest one I've ever had, 4 or 5 years. If you're gonna run them at 30 degrees, a year and a half, and they're gone. So yeah, there's lots of ways to keep them more happy, I'd say. So 25, 26 is what I recommend.
What's the lowest?
Well, this was an experiment for me as well. I kept some outside in Sydney, Cacatoides, and I think the temp of the tank went to 18 at the lowest. They were fine. It's not something I recommend. Again, like if you put the tank to a lower temperature, you run the risk once you breed them that you probably get more females. And I think, especially with these fish, if you only sell males or only sell females, there won't be a market for it. People that buy these fish want pairs, because it's just the best thing to see them like behave together, breed, raise the fish together, the fry together. If you just have a male there, it looks amazing, but you don't get the full game, I think.
So I was just going to say too about the low temperature, because I've got some master right now that don't have a heater in the tank.
Yeah.
And it's not by choice, the heater stopped working over the nose, but it's been like that for months, and I think the fish are actually doing better. They just look healthier to me. And I was just going to say, when you say you heat the room, is it affected by the external temperature?
So I heat my room because I run about 150 tanks. To run a heater on all those 150 tanks, my energy bill would be sending me bankrupt.
So if it's 40 degrees outside,
Yeah.
does that affect your room?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah?
So in summer, I run air conditioning 24/7.
Yeah.
In winter, basically a heater 24/7. Now, Sydney in winter is not that bad, so during the day it might go down to 20 degrees, so I only have to bump it up by 5. But that heater is running in winter almost constantly.
So I did say, if I lose fish, it tends to be after like in Melbourne, the temperature comes in like a wave. So
Yeah.
The next week's slightly colder and then a wave of hot again. It's always in the wave of hot at the end that I'll lose in a piss depth. And it's often in quick succession. And different tanks, so I feel personally that temperature makes a difference.
Yeah, like I feel consistency is key, I'd say, right? Like that's what most fish thrive in. If you keep it consistent, they will live the longest. A spike shouldn't really affect them too much though, but it also really depends on how hot it got. Like if it goes over like 30, it goes into 35, which I had my tanks go at in Sydney in summer when I still was in the living room. You lose fish left, right, and center because it's just they're not used to that. They're like they're fish that prefer 25, 26 degrees. You're gonna put them 10 degrees higher. They're gonna stress out. They're gonna die.
Sometimes it's for like 2 weeks as well.
Yeah.
40 degrees.
Yeah, yeah. Like I think I'm very fortunate with where my warehouse is located. It's right in between two buildings, so it's in shade constantly. So if I get a 40-degree day in Sydney, if I run the air conditioning, it stays stable at 25. It might go to 27, but that's about it. And that for a short period of time is not as bad. Keep it on the 30 degrees, you should be fine.
With tank mates, I'd always told people and heard that nanostomas are a good one, pencilfish, because they can't even eat newborn fry.
Yeah.
Is that something you agree with?
So me personally, I've done it, and in my experience, it went great. I've heard other breeders say that they're quite aggressive though, and they do actually actively hunt for the fry. Not in my experience, but one of my friends where I learned most of my stuff from said don't do pencilfish because they will eat your fry. It's the same with, the same with the pistos. Some of them are aggressive, some are not aggressive. Same with pencilfish probably, like some will eat your fry, some won't. It's like you have to find out a little bit yourself as well.
You're talking about fish as far south as Argentina.
Yeah.
Do we have any here? Because that'd be similar to what we have here.
The temperatures here.
Yeah.
I mean, like I tried the experiment with my tank on the balcony and it went down to 18 degrees and they survived through the whole winter. I'm not so sure if they can thrive here in the wild though.
But do we have any species here that are from that area? Do you know?
I think it's Uruguay.
The Borelli is there and the Trifasciata, I believe, is also from, Trifasciata is from Uruguay. Borelli is from Uruguay.
Because that's quite cold
Yeah.
in the winters.
Yeah, so Borelli is a species that is, many people say you can keep it a little bit colder, but I still, for me personally, I keep everything at 25 across the board. Like if you go and look at the fish that are more from the Amazon towards Brazil, where it's a little bit hotter, like Agassiz species, they can take it a little bit hotter. They can handle 28 degrees a bit better. But if you look at the average temperature in most of South America, where these fish are found, 25, 26 is what the collection temperatures normally is. This obviously depends also on season, on when they were collected and stuff.
In a Blackwater setup, you were talking about how you try to avoid doing too many water changes with the defeats the purpose of diluting the temperature
Yes,
of water.
yes.
Do you potentially use immersed plants to help keep nitrates low?
Oh, absolutely. So like pothos, like I think every fish keeper here would have used pothos at one stage. So most of my big grow-out tanks have pothos sticking out. There's a variety of immersed plants that you can use, and they actually create a really nice web of roots and stuff, which you won't like in a true Blackwater scape. You don't use too many plants because it's not found in those kind of regions. What they do have though is like in the Amazon as well, there's like jungle vines hanging over, plants from terrestrial that go into the water. Like same with Anubias. Anubias is not a aquatic plant, it's a terrestrial plant that does really well in aquariums. So there's lots of biotopes where this is a case and where they use terrestrial plants to make the tank look nicer. And I feel if you can have the whole back covered by pothos and have it hanging over your rack, it looks fantastic. All right, shall we start the scape? All right, guys, let's scape an Apisto tank. So I start with putting in the sand, which is the iron sand. I already spoke a little bit about the benefits. It's quite heavy sand, but very fine. So when apistos are taking this in their mouth, it's easy to spit out for them. It doesn't destroy their gills because it's a powder almost. Benefit of it being so fine is that it doesn't let any air bubbles in or any debris that will eventually build up with a Blackwater tank. It will just float on top because it doesn't go and penetrate the actual really dense. Now, when I'm going to scape this tank for a trio, which means that we sort of have to create a little barrier in the middle, because we don't want the females to see each other, because then they're going to attack each other. So I got this little piece of driftwood that I normally, I'll just chuck it in for now. We can arrange the stuff a little bit more. So each of these boxes will have what I'm pulling out of this box now. The driftwood I haven't included in that because it's for this tank only. So what we've got here is like a coconut cave, which has a hole drilled on the top, which will be the entrance to the cave. Chuck that on one side of the tank. All these botanicals, the person that will win this tank, need to be soaked again. So it's not as easy as just filling it up when you come home, because these will obviously float. But we chose to not do a wet scape because then you can't take it home easily. So all the stuff, if you're going to put water in there, it will just float to the top. So bring some water to the boil, chuck them in, soak them for an hour, or chuck them in boiling water and boil it for 10 minutes. Then they should be completely soaked with water and they will sink to the bottom. If you go to my website, there's also a little guideline how to do your botanicals, how to prepare them. Same thing goes for the leaf litter. I've got a little bag here, and it's probably too much of what you actually need. But same thing, boil it and just spread it around the aquarium where you think it will cover the bottom, but not completely cover the bottom. If you put too much, the leaves are the most thin botanical in here, so they will completely deteriorate within like maybe 2-3 months. The more you put in, the more mess you basically create, because it will become like a sludge. So I've got this type of filtration. Now this tank is actually a little bit bigger than I expected. Normally this filtration is good for tanks up to, I would say 60, 65. This tank is 70, so might be a little bit too small. But if you keep a pair or a trio of apistos, just a pair of apistos, with like maybe a few dither fish, the bio load shouldn't be too much, so it should be okay still. If you're gonna use this as a community tank though, you might want to switch this to a more strong filtration. Next pot that we have here is a Cariana pot. So this one is actually native to South America. It has a small hole in there where the seeds used to be. And as you can see, that's another perfect cave for apistos. So I just try to place them around the tank where the female has options. Even if you just have one female in here or a pair, I still would provide her with at least like 2-3 caves so she can actually choose where to go. Sometimes they even breed in one cave, then move the fry to another cave and move around the tank like that to find food. So the more caves you can basically pop into the tank without overcrowding it, because that's aesthetically not the best. Yeah. So this is called a Badam pot. So this one is from India actually. So it's not anything closely related to the Amazon River, but it's a nice pot that once it's boiled, you can actually mold it a bit more, you can close it up a bit, and it becomes this quite nice big cave. Very good for biofilm. So if you have shrimp, this one is also a very good option. In like 2-3 weeks from putting this in your tank, it will be covered in biofilm. That's what fry love, that's what shrimp love. So I'm just going to put that upside down. So it's another little cave here. Now I'm not going to put any plants in here as well because it's a dry scape, but what you can do is, for example, you put like a row of Vallisneria on this side. So when you have the flow, it will flow over all the botanicals in your scape. That's something that I always like to do. This one is called what's it called? Flinders-Ria. I call them spiky pots, but it's a native Australian botanical. This one you can also break up in segments, so you can spread them around a little bit in the tank. I thought it's also nice to just keep it whole, because when you boil this also, it will close up a little bit more, and it will create these little pockets where the fry can hide in. So if you have if you set this up as a community tank and the pair does end up breeding, the fry can hide in here for the rest of the fish that you got. This is the one that I was talking about earlier. This is the bale pot. So on the website they don't come with holes. I just got a cheap drill from Bunnings and you can make your own hole in there. This one I don't boil. I found that this one actually cracks when you boil it. So this one just needs a soak with water, cold soak with water, and it will maintain its shape. Now you can also obviously place it like this, then you've got a bigger hole. Some bigger cichlids like to lay their eggs in here. Like I've got a pair of West African Cichus sacramontis. They always go into this pot. I've got about like 4 coconut caves in that tank with them, and they just ignore it and go in here. Some fish just like the open bed more than a closed off cave. Probably have to have a look what I'm actually doing. I can't see. Yeah, with plants it will bring this scape to life, even though in the Amazon you don't see much plants, or in the puddles that they have found, some apistos, they found basically only some floating plants and like terrestrial plants hanging with their roots in the water. So it's very interesting to see that like most tanks that I have plants in it, but actually the biotope that they live in don't really have it. But I feel like if you put plants, it will get rid of the extra nitrates. And I'm a bit of a lazy person, so I do my water changes for my breeding pairs only once a month. Not only have I seen better results, it also like, I've got 150 tanks, man. I can't do 150 tanks every week like some other of you guys can. Yeah, but interestingly enough, I noticed that once I started doing water changes every month rather than every 2 weeks that I was doing before, I saw a huge increase in breeding pairs. I think this probably has to do with their natural instinct that they breed once the rainy season starts. Something I'm a bit skeptical about, because some people say if the barometric pressure drops, then you should water change and it will give you better results. I tried that with the pistas as well, no results. So for me, the 4-week water changing schedule works actually really, really well. It's not too bad, I guess. Looks all right. So I'll probably put this one a bit on top as well, so you create another little cave. So what you see now is basically the hardscape. Like, you can put the leaves in there as well, but you have to boil them first, and they pretty much will cover the whole bottom. Now what we've done is we've put like caves on this side, we put caves on that side. So if one female decides to make her territory over here, the other one decides to have it over here, they only have basically two little sections where they can see each other. So basically this whole cave is blocked by this piece of wood, so they don't really go and attack each other. They do tend to be quite aggressive when there's multiple females in the tank, because they actually steal each other's fry. I've had seen it a couple of times with my cacatoides, who I always keep in trios. One day I saw one female with only one fry, and I was like, oh no, she ate all the fry. Then I looked at the other side of the tank, there was like almost 200 fry in the corner, because the other female just took all the fry from the other female. So yeah, make sure you have that line of sight breakage there, so you don't create extra unnecessary. The leaves are, sorry? So these ones are actually oak leaves, so they're called pin oak leaves. I just brought these ones because they're the longest lasting ones. Normally on the website I have like a box of like, it's probably 6-7 different types of leaves, and I sell it as a autumn box, and it just creates this nice layer of different looking leaves. And then over here you've got the low cut leaves. So low cut leaves are from Southeast Asia, I believe. Also very long lasting. So I thought I'd bring the ones that last us the longest for you guys, so you don't have to manage the tank too much. Yeah, let's see what happens when we put the light on.
Hey, Mats, obviously you want people to buy from the website, but is there any good local leaf found?
Oh, 100%. 100%. So
Or avoid.
most people will have access to a Banksia tree probably here. Banksia leaves are really good, especially when you get the ones that don't have the spiky edges. Pin oak, there's many trees of that in Sydney, so I'd say you got it here too. There is like London plane. They look a bit like maple leaves, but they mostly found in places where there's lots of traffic, because they filter the air very well. That's a good one. Casuarina needles I've used. Low cut trees also, probably you find it anywhere around Melbourne. You just have to sort of know what you're looking for. And like, yes, I sell botanicals, but what I also always try and tell my customers is experiment. Like, find your own botanicals. Go out in nature, grab some random looking pot from the tree, test it out. Set up a small aquarium with maybe a few guppies. Test it out for 6 weeks. They're all good. Add some shrimp. If they're all good, it's generally fine. That's how I started the website during COVID. I basically designed the website because most botanicals were unable to import in Australia, because it's a biological product. So you don't just buy it from India or America, get it over here and sell it. No, you need import licenses, you need the whole shebang. So my focus initially was Australian botanicals to create scapes like this. So I found like Banksia leaves, Banksia pots, Casuarina needles, Casuarina pots, gum nuts, many different types of gum nuts that work. Gum nut, bark, so many things that I've found, like Currajong, they all work. But you also have to be creative. You have to try and find out yourself. Don't do it in an established tank, because then you might kill your fish. I don't want that to happen, but experiment.
I'm very interested in what you call iron sand. Do you know what it is?
Yeah, so you can get this pretty much from any of your suppliers, local shops.
You're talking about aquarium shops, or we're talking about...
Aquarium shops, yeah. I get this from P&P Trading. Some people that own shops here, Zach maybe might be able to help you guys.
It is quite expensive.
No, it's actually very affordable. It used to be more expensive because it was like an Oliver Knott brand, but now they've got their own line, and that's much more affordable.
So it's actually from New Zealand.
Yes, yeah, that's the one. Yeah,
It's volcanic, is it?
Volcanic.
Yeah.
Volcanic thing.
yeah. So it's
West coast of New Zealand.
it's really really good, and it shouldn't be too expensive. Like I can buy this wholesale. I think it's, I don't know.
Do we know whether it contains a lot of iron or is that just a name?
I don't think it's magnetic. I have tried it. It is sort of marketed to be a good plant growing sand though. So I think that there's iron in there, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've been collecting leaves,
Yeah,
but I'm a bit cautious with contamination of fox,
Yeah.
or dog or bird. So how? Obviously, I look for clean leaves.
yeah. So
Do I have to do something with them?
so boiling it would, like any natural organic matter like fox pee or whatever, bird poo, boiling it will eliminate that. The only thing that you can't eliminate is like actual toxins from spraying by council.
Oh yeah.
So
I noticed that.
make sure if you go collecting at a certain spot, just call your local council and ask, hey, do you guys spray in this area? I've done it with all the questionable trees that I came across that are found in more council areas.
Yeah. No, I go in private gardens.
Yeah, well then you should not have an issue, I think. Yeah,
Oh, thank you.
no worries. Yeah, well, I think we did an okay job here. I mean, I'm not the best aquascaper. You got Jack coming for that. So for me, it's more practical, and you could put like a few like Anubias plants in there, put a little bit of Val. Just make sure that everything sinks, because like if you're gonna fill this up with water, like I said before, it's just gonna float up. But yeah, so there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 different caves in there. Any Apisto would be very happy in this.
So there you go, guys. That was Mats from Blackwater Aquariums. Hopefully you enjoyed that meeting. If you did, it always helps me out to smash like, hit subscribe, and all that fun stuff. Other than that, happy fish keeping and stay awesome.